For 72 hours, the radio was dead silent. Command was preparing to declare her missing in action. Then came that voice. Target eliminated. Coming home. But that was just the beginning, because nobody knew that this female pilot had just accomplished the impossible, a solo mission that would rewrite military history. Welcome to the Real-Time Stories, where courage meets the impossible. Today's story will show you what happens when one woman refuses to accept that something can't be done. Before we dive in, tell us which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. It helps us share these incredible human moments with the world. Picture this. Major Sarah Chen, 34 years old, standing barely 5 feet 4 inches in her flight suit. For 12 years, she'd been proving that the best pilots aren't always the biggest or the loudest. They're the ones who stay calm when everyone else is panicking. And on March 15th, at 5:30 a.m., when the alarm screamed through Thornfield Air Base, Sarah was about to face the ultimate test of that philosophy. The briefing room felt like a tomb. Colonel Marcus Webb's voice cut through the tension. "Gentlemen and lady." His eyes found Sarah's. Blackwater Island's enemy base has started testing next-generation nuclear missile systems. Satellite imagery confirms these missiles will be operational within 48 hours. Sarah felt her heartbeat sync with the ticking of the wall clock. Tick. "If this system goes active," Webb continued, "every civilian settlement within 500 miles becomes a target. The problem: the island is naturally shielded by radar barriers. Conventional bombers can't get close." The room held its breath. "Our only option is to send a single pilot using stealth technology." Sarah's hand shot up before her brain could stop it. "I can go, sir." Captain Reynolds, her best friend and wingman, immediately protested. "Chen, this is a suicide mission. The island surrounded by enemy fighters. Going in alone is impossible." But Sarah was already studying the tactical display, her mind racing through wind patterns, fuel calculations, enemy patrol routes. "Sir, 2 aircraft create more radar signature. To avoid their detection systems, we'd need to fly at ultra-low altitude. Coordinating 2 planes becomes impossible. 1 pilot makes more sense." Colonel Webb shook his head firmly. "Negative. This isn't up for debate. You and Reynolds both go." But Sarah had already made her decision. She just wasn't going to tell them why at 8 o'clock hours, 2 F-22 Raptors rolled onto the runway. Sarah's call sign, Phantom 7, Reynolds, Eagle Eye 3. As they ran final systems checks, Sarah turned to Reynolds. "Jim, listen to me. When we reach the island, we separate. You maintain safe distance. I take the primary target." Reynolds stared at her through his canopy. "What are you talking about? That's not the plan." "Plans change," Sarah replied, and Reynolds could see something in her eyes he'd never seen before. Not recklessness, but absolute certainty. "If we both go in, we both might die. Someone needs to get home and tell them what happened." "Sarah, this is insane." "No, Jim. This is math." At 9:15, 2 aircraft lifted into the morning sky. For 200 miles, they flew in perfect formation. Then Sarah's voice crackled through the radio. "Command, this is Phantom 7. Approaching target zone. Going stealth mode. Entering radio silence now. Copy, Phantom 7. Good hunting. Get home safe." But Sarah wasn't planning to play it safe. She caught Reynolds' eye one last time through the canopy, gave him a hand signal that meant, "Wait here," and suddenly dropped altitude like a stone falling from heaven. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Reynolds' voice was pure panic. "Stay here, Jim. If I'm not back in 6 hours, return to base and report." "Sarah, no, come back." But Sarah was already gone, disappearing into the ocean mist just 50 feet above the waves. At this altitude, radar couldn't touch her, but one mistake would mean instant death. Blackwater Island rose from the ocean like a sleeping monster. 3 MiG-29s circled overhead in patrol patterns. Sarah studied their timing, calculated their radar sweep intervals, used the ocean's natural interference to remain invisible. The target, an underground missile complex in the island's center. 1 entry point, a ventilation shaft on the mountain's south face. 3 meters wide, 50 meters deep. It was like trying to thread a needle while riding a roller coaster. Sarah put her aircraft into a vertical dive. G-forces slammed her into her seat, 8 GS that felt like elephants standing on her chest. Blood vessels in her eyes began to burst, But she never lost sight of that tiny hole in the mountain, 3,000 feet. She fired. The guided missile threaded through that impossibly small opening like destiny finding its target. The explosion that followed shook the earth and sent tsunami waves across the ocean. But Sarah wasn't done. Underground complexes were massive. One missile might not be enough. She rolled into a second attack dive, even more dangerous than the first. That's when the enemy fighters spotted her. Unidentified hostile aircraft. Surrender immediately. The enemy pilot's voice crackled through her radio. Sarah didn't respond. She fired her second missile, watched it find its mark, saw the underground complex collapse completely. But now 3 enemy fighters were closing fast. What happened next would be talked about in pilot schools for decades. For the next 3 days, Sarah played the deadliest game of cat and mouse in aviation history. No missiles left. Just her cannon and her wits against 3 enemy fighters who knew these waters like their own backyard. Day 1. She disappeared into storm clouds, using weather fronts as shields. When night fell, she flew completely dark, navigating by stars alone while her enemies searched blindly below. Day 2. Fuel critical. In the most audacious move of the operation, she stalked an enemy refueling tanker, attaching her fuel line from underneath while the crew remained oblivious above. Day 3. One last pass over the island to confirm target destruction. The missile complex was gone. A smoking crater where nuclear threats used to hide. 75 hours after radio silence began, Sarah's F-22 appeared on radar 100 miles from home base. Fuel gauge reading empty. Half her systems offline. But her mission was complete. Reynolds was still there, still waiting, still believing she might come home. Sarah, answer me. Her voice, when it came, was exhausted but steady. Eagle Eye 3, this is Phantom 7. Target eliminated. Coming home. In the command center, alarms started ringing. Colonel Webb and his entire staff rushed to the radio. Phantom 7, you've been radio silent for 72 hours. Report your status. Sir, mission accomplished. Blackwater Island missile complex completely destroyed. Enemy technology no longer operational. Silence. No one could believe it. Phantom 7, are you saying you accomplished this mission solo? Affirmative, sir. Details in debriefing. When Sarah's wheels touched the runway, every person on the airbase was waiting. As she climbed out of her cockpit, she could barely stand. 72 hours of combat, 4 hours of sleep total, surviving on emergency rations and pure willpower. Colonel Webb approached, and what he saw in her eyes surprised him. Not pride, not satisfaction, just relief. Major Chen, you accomplished the impossible single-handedly. Sir, this was my mission. I did what was necessary. The debriefing lasted 8 hours. Sarah's account would rewrite tactical manuals. It was recorded as the most complex operation ever conducted by a single pilot. But for Sarah, the most important thing was something else entirely. In those 72 hours, no innocent civilians were harmed. Even the enemy pilots survived. She'd neutralized them without killing them. 3 months later, Sarah received the Medal of Honor. During the ceremony, reporters asked the obvious questions. Major Chen, weren't you afraid? 72 hours alone in enemy territory. Sarah considered this carefully. I wasn't afraid because I didn't have time to be afraid. I could only think about the next step. Every second, every decision was the difference between life and death. What was your most difficult moment? Maintaining radio silence. Knowing my friends were worried. Knowing our families were concerned. But operational security required silence. Another reporter pressed, if you received another mission like this, would you go alone again? Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile she'd shown since returning. I hope no one ever has to take a mission like this again. But if necessary, yes, I'd go again. Because sometimes there are things only one person can do, and you have to be ready to be that person. Today, Sarah Chen trains the next generation of pilots. She teaches them more than just flying. She teaches them decision-making under pressure, staying calm in chaos, and making the right choice even when it's the hardest choice. At the end of her classes, she always says this, true courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right while you're afraid. I was terrified for 72 hours. But I did my job. Because sometimes, what you need to do is more important than what you want to do. This story reminds us that real heroes don't always have the loudest voices. Sometimes the greatest heroism happens in 72 hours of silence, doing your job perfectly when no one is watching. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the quiet heroes who protect our world, not because they want fame, but because they understand that some things are worth protecting. To human stories, we keep telling the stories of forgotten heroes, because their stories matter more than we might ever know. What did you think of Sarah's incredible journey? Have you ever had to make a difficult decision when no one was watching? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, the next time you meet someone quiet, they might just be carrying the weight of having saved the world.